Welcome, everyone. My name is Lizelle May Foss. I'm a member of the HEAL Data Stewardship Group. I want to thank all of you for joining us today for this installment of our Fresh Fair webinar series titled Empowering Data Reuse, a guide to creating data dictionaries and variable level metadata. Today's webinar will include presentations from 2 speakers and will be followed by a live Q&A session. If at any point you have a question, please feel free to type it into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and we'll bring it up during the session after the presentation. This webinar is being recorded and will be shared with all registrants. In this webinar, we will explore the different types of metadata and their important roles in research. You'll learn how to develop data dictionaries and variable level metadata, or VLMD for short, and get an overview of HEAL-specific tools that support metadata throughout the data lifecycle. We'll also cover how to submit your data dictionaries to the HEAL data ecosystem and showcase how variable level metadata enhances data discoverability and reuse. Finally, we'll wrap up with a Q&A session where you can get your questions answered. Today's presenters are Hina Shah and Dr. Brianna Larrick. Hina serves as a data steward for the HEAL project. She is a research software developer at Rensi and has over a decade of experience in working with medical images, electronic health record data curation, and preparing for analysis. For HEAL, she helps with variable level metadata collection, standardization, and improving HEAL semantic search through improved data pipelines. Dr. Brianna Larrick is a senior scientific project manager at the University of Chicago Center for Translational Data Science. With 8 years of scientific program and project management experience in the nonprofit and academic sectors, Dr. Larrick serves as a project manager of the HEAL data platform. Her background is in preclinical research, focusing on cellular and animal models of metabolic chronic diseases. Before I hand the presentation over to our presenters, I want to briefly explain key vocabulary terms you'll hear throughout the presentation and provide a high-level overview of metadata, data dictionaries, and related concepts. In HEAL, we distinguish between 2 types of metadata: study-level metadata and variable-level metadata. On the screen, you'll see an example for study-level metadata, or SLMD for short, and this describes HEAL-funded studies with identifiers linking data to each study. And there's a metaphor I like to use to describe as study-level metadata, and think of it as a book cover that offers a snapshot, helping users locate detailed study information within HEAL's large digital library. Variable level metadata, on the other hand, describes the individual variables collected in a study. It complements study level metadata by detailing and encoding each variable. Hina will talk more about this during her portion of the presentation. And to use that book metaphor again, variable level metadata is kind of like an index. It guides researchers to specific data points, enabling precise analysis and deeper understanding of the study data itself. You'll often hear the term data dictionary, codebook, and variable level metadata used interchangeably. So I'll quickly go over the differences in these next few slides. A data dictionary and codebook typically describe variables in a human-readable way, but not always. Variable-level metadata, on the other hand, is a detailed, often machine-readable metadata framework, a specialized data dictionary for advanced sharing and reuse. While all variable-level metadata can be a part of a data dictionary, not all data dictionaries include the full detail required to qualify as variable-level metadata. And so the main difference is often in formatting and the details included. So does a data dictionary apply to your study's data? They are often, they meaning data dictionaries, are often linked to tabular data because of its structured rows and columns, which makes mapping variables easier. tabular data standards are well established, but metadata standards for non-tabular data, like reports or images, are still being developed. For those non-tabular data types, a codebook is still valuable in helping organize key themes or variables. This webinar will focus on tabular data. And so for studies with non-tabular data, if you registered for this webinar, we will be emailing resources on formats like qualitative data, imaging, and sequencing files. You'll see on the screen there's links to various resources. And so this slide will also be shared to registrants. And so you can use these as reference guides. All right, at this time, I will turn the presentation over to Hina.
Thank you, Lizelle. Hello, everyone. So I'll be briefly talking over the data dictionary, its components, and for the tabular data structures, for tabular data, how it would look like. So if we can go to the next slide, please. So usually the main data dictionary or VLMD components should include things like name, a form name, description, data type, and allowable values. This is an example data dictionary where the name will actually give you the variable or the entity that is being collected. Form name could be something like a CDE name or CRF name. So for example, on the within the example, you have data quality assurance questionnaire and McGill-Payne questionnaires as the form names. You would definitely need descriptions, which would identify what is being collected, a data type and allowable values, allow others to identify what are the specifics for that variable or the entity that's being collected. This could be the min-max values if it's an integer or a numeric data type, any encoded values or allowable values for that particular entity. Next slide. Some optional components could be things like a required flag or conditional or a calculation logic. Title, which could give you a human readable description of the variable. Any missingness and how those are being, any missing values, and that would represent a missing entity. The full schema, this link will be shared with you. The full schema can be found at this GitHub link, and this will be shared with all of you later. Please keep in mind that a data dictionary, the purpose of the data dictionary is to tell other users what your data has collected and how to interpret your data. So any and all information that you can include in the data dictionary is super useful to look through your data and understand your data. That's the purpose of the data dictionary. Next slide, please. Exporting the data dictionary from your study's electronic data capturing system can be done, there is often a tool or a way to export your data dictionaries into CSV, XLR, JSON file formats. For example, within the REDCap, you can go to the dictionary data section and click on the download data dictionary format. It will export a CSV file, and you can send that, or you can send that to HEAL stewards, or go through the process that Brianna will show later to convert it to the HEAL data platform compliant VLMD format. Next slide. You can also export the data dictionaries programmatically. For example, Stata has a red capture package, and R can has a data dictionary package as well. So you can create your data dictionary tables and export them using these tools in CSV file formats as well. Next slide, please. This is a kind of a screenshot of what like a CSV export could look like. This is a screenshot from the REDCap CSV format with the variable names or form names, field type, the label, as well as the choices, calculation, and slider labels. This is just to give you an idea of how a CSV file might look like. And with that, I think I'll be handing over to Brianna to talk how to take this CSV file and convert it to a VLMD that is acceptable by HEAL Data Platform.
Great, thank you so much, Hina. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right. So I will be doing a demo today of the HEAL variable level metadata tool, which will take you from, as Hina just said, a data dictionary or a data file and convert that into a HEAL compliant variable level metadata file. But before I do that, I wanted to take just a moment to explain why, if I have my data dictionary, should I bother with this conversion of, or this creation of variable level metadata? This flowchart was made to help describe or to illustrate that the HEAL initiative funds a wide variety of studies which are generating a wide array of data types. And even for studies that are similar, they could be collecting and generating data in a variety of ways. And all of this makes it difficult to compare two data sets or to especially to combine data sets. So with this tool, we can take a variety of input formats. We can take CSV, TSV, or JSON data dictionaries. We can take the REDCap exports if you're using that tool. The tool can take, if you're working with Stata, as Hina just mentioned, you can use the REDCapture function to generate a REDCap looking CSV export. And so on. If you have a data set in CSV or TSV, you could convert your R data set into a CSV file. You can take all of these inputs, run them through the HEAL variable level metadata tool, and what is outputted is a standardized file that makes it very easy to that makes it easier to search across data sets, makes it easier to combine multiple data sets for secondary analysis, no matter how you collected your data. So in the next slide, there we go. The HEAL variable level metadata tool can be used in a HEAL workspace. It's very easy. They come pre-installed. You don't have to download or install anything. You just launch a workspace and the tool is there for you to use. And our documentation contains all of the commands and everything you need to run the tool, and I'll be showing that. You could also, if you prefer, use it on your local machine. You can pip install the HEAL Scientific Development Kit or the HEAL SDK, which contains the tool to your local computer. You would use the tool at the command line, and then any files that the VLMD file that you generate would be saved to your computer. In either case, you can go ahead once you have that file and upload it to your study on the HEAL Data platform, and you can also send it to the repository or submit it when you archive your data at your chosen repository. So with that being said, I am going to go ahead and do a demonstration of using the tool. I'm going to show a few examples. I will show how to validate an existing VLMD file. If you have one of those, and do some troubleshooting, if you say misname a variable or something like that, we'll walk through that example. I will also show the example of taking a REDCap export, putting that into the tool and extracting from that HEAL compliant variable level metadata. I'm going to come out of these slides, and first I will drop the link to the tool documentation into the chat here. All right, I just dropped it in. It might have gone only to hosts and panelists, so if someone could send that to register to all attendees if that didn't just go there right now. And so, as I just said, we can use the tool at the command line on your local machine or in a workspace. And this is actually what I'm going to be demonstrating today because I do think it's the most simple way to use the tool. Or if you don't want to work from the command line, you can use the tool in Python too. In either case, and you could use this in a HEAL workspace or anywhere else. In either case, we have instructions on how to, in this case, access a workspace, log in, launch a workspace, and so on. There's very helpful step-by-step instructions, 1, 2, 3, that you can follow along. And in both cases, for the command line option and the Python option, we have exactly the commands and the arguments that you need to put. So if we were doing this with Python, copy and paste this entire blog, push play, and that's what you need. Okay, so for this example, I have logged in to the HEAL Data platform, healdata.org. I've clicked on the Workspace tab, and I have launched a workspace. So that's what we're looking at now. What I'm going to do first is do the example of extracting VLMD from a REDCap export. So I have a file here that I would like to upload, adult demographics data dictionary. This is the REDCap export, drag and drop. Boom, there's my uploaded file. We can take a quick look. If you use REDCap, and especially if you've used this adult demographics HEAL CDE, this should look very familiar to you. And what we want to do with this data dictionary file is extract VLMD from it. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to open a terminal down at the bottom because I'm going to do this from the command line. But if I wanted to do it with Python, it would be exactly the same. So here, what I'm going to show is, let's say, HEAL VLMD. Start by typing this, and you can follow along with this in the documentation. And let's just go ahead and take a look at what's available if we type in help. We see this tool has two functions, extract and validate. Okay, so in this example, I want to extract VLMD from my input file. Okay, so HEAL VLMD extract. Let's see what kind of arguments we have to put in order to run this command. We'll do help one more time. And we can see that, okay, let's see, I need to specify my input file. That makes sense. I need to tell the tool which file to extract VLMD from. And then if I am working, if I've uploaded a CSV file, I also need to provide a root level title. Okay, so just two things. So HEAL VLMD extract. Okay, let's specify my input file. In this case, the file I'm using is adult demo data dict. .csv. And let's give this a title of just adult demo VLMD. Okay, so I'm going to do is push enter, run the command, and there's some output here. There's some logs that you can see, but the important part that I want to show is at the bottom here. Okay, it's writing my converted dictionary to this file, and the output type is JSON. So perfect. That's what we want to see. And we can see here it has generated a HEAL compliant variable level metadata file. So here's the JSON file. You can expand this. You can look at the different things that have been extracted. In this case, the ethnicity variable is here. We can see that the labels are, it has inferred, these are the possible responses, or the coding and the labels for each of the coding, and so on. You can examine this, but this is the HEAL compliant variable level metadata file that you can then upload to the platform and submit with your data. And then any data that you submit can be validated against this file that you've created. Okay, so that's the first example. And all I did was, if we go to the command line instructions, we use the extract function here, and everything I put, this was it. So you could, if you wanted to, instead of typing help and seeing what the arguments are, you could come to the documentation, copy this, and all you have to update is what your file name is and what you want to title your resulting file. Okay, so that's the first example. The second example I'm going to walk through is, say you have downloaded our variable level metadata CSV template, and you've manually populated this, or you've created what you think is a HEAL compliant VLMD file, but you're not sure. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and use the validate function. So I have a file here, the addiction behaviors checklist, variable level metadata. And if we take a look and say, okay, here's my VLMD file in CSV format, I think it's correct. Let's run it through the tool and see if that's the case. So I'm going to come here again, HEAL, VLMD. In this case, I want to do validate, and let's see what kind of things we need to specify. Okay, just one required thing. I need to tell it what file I want to validate. So that's easy enough. Okay, HEAL, VLMD, validate, input file. Okay, now in this case, I'm going to show a few troubleshooting things. So let's see, let's say I make a typo and say ABC underscore VLMD CVS instead of CSV. Let's see what we look. Okay, so if we come down to the bottom, there is an error, invalid file. Another similar thing, if I had maybe made a typo in the file name instead of the extension, it would have said file does not exist. So, okay, let's go up and correct my typo here. CSV, here we go. All right, and so now if we look at the bottom line here, oh, there's another error in validating. Name is a required property. Okay, so we can work through these errors one by one. So let's take a look at the file that I just uploaded and say, oops, I accidentally named this variable name instead of just name. And so to be HEAL compliant, we do need a name column here. So that's easy enough to fix. Let's go ahead and do that really quickly. Oops. We can, there's a few ways to edit this, but in this case, I'm just going to right click, open up the editor, my column names are right here. Name. Okay. Save. Let's try this again. I'm going to click the up arrow. Let's run the same thing one more time. Okay. Oh, now there's a different error. Description is a required property. Okay, so these are the two required fields in the HEAL variable level metadata schema. Let's take one more look at my file. We've got the name. Oh, and I see I have to rename this title too. So these are the types of things that when the tool detects an error, it gives you some output, some guidance on exactly what you need to fix so that you can go ahead and do that. Okay, let's correct this file, this column title. Save it. Okay. One more time. Boom. And now if we look, converted dictionary is valid, valid. So that's what we're looking for. So again, this is using the tool from the command line. You can do this in a HEAL workspace as I just did. You can pip install onto your local computer if you don't want to open up a workspace. But in the workspace, it's already pre-installed, so there's nothing more you need to do other than come here and copy paste these commands that are in the documentation. And the same thing would have been true. The steps that I just did and the errors or the guidance on, hey, we see this error in your file, those same types of messages would be received if we had done this using the Python commands as well. If I wanted to, let's go ahead and just do the same thing in Python real quick. If I can open there, copy paste, ABC, VLMD. Okay, run that. All right, converted dictionary is valid. So the same types of messages. And that is all. And I'm happy to take any questions about this in the Q&A session at the end of the webinar. So I'll stop sharing my screen. There we go.
Thank you, Brianna and Hina. In this next part of the presentation, we'll explore HEAL-specific tools across the data lifecycle. I know Brianna just showed one of the tools, and I'll show where that kind of fits in the lifecycle. And so if you're not familiar with the HEAL PI checklist, this is how it looks like. We will share the link in the chat box. This checklist is a valuable tool to help you track your study's compliance with data management and sharing requirements. And so for this portion, I'll highlight key resources and tools relevant to creating variable level metadata or data dictionaries that your study can use at various stages. And so if you're a new awardee or early in the stages of your study, in the next few slides, I'll introduce different resources to help get started with developing a data dictionary. So we just launched this new tool called Variable Standards Finder. And this tool supports teams early in the study planning phase, especially new awards that are still finalizing questionnaires or data collection. This tool will have you answer different questions. And based off the answers to the questions, the tool identifies required and recommended variable standards to improve data documentation, interoperability, and future reuse. Another resource for data collection standards are the HEAL Common Data Elements, also known as CDEs. And just a quick description of what CDEs are. CDEs ensure consistent data collection across studies, making it easier to locate, compare, and harmonize data with minimal transformation. And so within HEAL studies, we have two domains. You see here the pain arm and the opioid use or substance use disorder arm. If your study is pain research or pain funded, you must follow the CDEs listed in this link. And again, we'll send out an email with the slides. And the HEAL CDEs link covers relevant domains and core demographics, and it will allow you to use the precise questions, allowable responses, and coding guidance. And we'll actually have our next month's webinar be all about CDEs, so stay tuned for that. So both the Variable Standards Finder and HEAL CDEs help studies that are early in their study planning phases. And the tool that Brianna showed will be helpful during this phase of your study journey. Whenever you're at the submit variable level metadata or submit data and metadata to a repository phase of your study, that's when using the tool will be useful, the tool that Brianna just showcased. And so at this time, I'll turn the presentation over to Hina. She will briefly talk about non-tabular data types.
Yeah, thanks, Lizelle. So one of the most common questions that we get is, what do we do if we have non-tabular data types? There are several non-tabular data types, so I'll try to summarize a few. So one of the data types that we get a lot of questions about is imaging. We will have a few resources to help you how to, create your data package and what kind of metadata you can include about imaging data types. But to keep in mind that try to follow the standardization guidelines set by your repository. Usually the imaging repositories have a pipeline to standardize the data, in which also the metadata about the files, about the imaging files, are also created in a standardized format. A data dictionary in for imaging data types could include things like imaging specifics, like the resolutions of the images, or the subject information, like maybe you could describe subject ID, race of the subject, age of the subject, or things like that. That could be included in the data dictionary. README files would be really useful, and that's a screenshot. There is an open dataset example from Open Neuro, from which I have put I've put a screenshot over there. This has a README file. It gives you an overview of what the imaging study is capturing, and what are the specific imaging settings that they used, if you will. So there would be an MR protocol, MRI imaging specifics, and if you could click one more time, OpenNeuro has something called a BIDS data standardization format. So when your data is converted, it will come into this really nice hierarchical file system in which you would have, so this particular example has code, the derivatives, the subjects, and if you look at the subject uh, anatomy folder, it also has a JSON file, which actually has the metadata about that particular imaging instance. So even if you don't create a tabular data dictionary, such kind of README files and having all these standardized metadata available in machine readable format would be super useful. So if we can go to the next slide, there is a qualitative data type. We often get questions about that as well. There is a very good primer, a data curation primer, for which we will share the link afterwards. But there is also a HEAL example, and if we can click once, there should be screenshots. Yeah, this particular study was submitted to GitHub, but it has a README file, and it describes very well what are the files within the data package. And if you click one more time, it also gives us a data dictionary. It's still in texture format, it's not in a tabular format, but it gives you all the fields that were incorporated into the data and from which the analysis was done. The key thing is just include these READMEs, outline the data collection methodologies, and include code books wherever necessary. Code books are really helpful in letting other people, understand your data and help them facilitate do the secondary data analysis. If we go to the next slide, so there are all these different types of non-tabular data types. There is genomic sequences, EAGs, and other signal data. If you go back one slide, so there are challenges. There is no particular way of doing a data dictionary generation, but always try to follow the repository guidance and try to include as much information as possible about the data collection, as well as any variables that you have done the analysis on. If we can go to the next slide. Also be cognizant that you would have raw data forms and derived data forms. So when you are creating your documentation and doing data management, try to keep that in mind, and also write documentation of what your data in the data package represents. Is it the raw data? Is it the derived data? What was the analysis done on? And things so forth. So if we go to the next slide. Just as a final word, I know this is not a lot of information, but HEAL stewards are always ready to assist you with any kind of questions, as well as metadata complexities that surround the non-tabular data formats as well. So if you have any questions about non-tabular data types or even tabular data types, we are here to help you. So feel free to always contact us on the HEAL Stewards email. Yep. And with that, I'll hand it back over to Lizelle.
Yes. Thank you, Hina. And to tie it all together, I'd like to briefly show how variable level metadata is implemented within the HEAL data ecosystem. And metadata, especially variable level metadata, plays a crucial role in making studies more fair, findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. And the HEAL initiative has funded over 1,800 studies on pain and opioid use disorder. creating a vast and complex data ecosystem. So finding relevant data and connections can be challenging. And to address this challenge, we have the HEAL Semantic Search engine, which is different from the HEAL platform. And the HEAL Semantic Search engine connects related concepts and studies, going beyond simple keyword searches. It also connects directly to HEAL platform study pages, making related data sets easy to find. Without going into the technical details, here's what our semantic search can reveal. For example, on the screen, you see that in the search bar, it says back pain, and the return for back pain contains words that are not just back pain. And the search also shows HEAL studies exploring these concepts along with variables and CDEs that reference them. And you'll find links to study records on the HEAL platform for deeper exploration and data location. And we'll share this HEAL Semantic Search link in the chat and also in the follow-up email. And so this is our call to action for your study team to please submit your variable level metadata or data dictionaries to us. This helps maximize the HEAL initiative's impact by connecting your research to the broader data ecosystem. And as I noted earlier, your study will only appear in the search results if you provide us with a data dictionary. And don't worry, your files won't be publicly visible and submissions don't need to be perfect. Our goal is to collect as many data dictionaries as possible to support investigators in improving the quality and making studies more fair. All right, so the key takeaways for this presentation is now that we've covered the material, you've learned how metadata is essential for making data fair and supporting effective sharing. We've explored ways to develop data dictionaries and variable level metadata tailored to your data and repository needs, and discovered HEAL specific tools designed to support metadata throughout your study's lifecycle. We also talked about the importance of submitting your data dictionary to the HEAL data ecosystem to boost your study's discoverability, and how variable level metadata integrates to enhance data findability and reuse. So keep these points in mind as you continue your research journey. And now we will move on to the Q&A session of this webinar. And I will invite our presenters and Q&A panelists to please turn on their cameras. And I will stop screen sharing to begin the Q&A sessions. And we are joined by Hina, Brianna, and Sabrina, who's also part of the HEAL Data Stewardship Group. Is everyone ready? Okay, the first question is, where can I find instructions for entering non-tabular data types for qualitative focus group interview study? I'm running out of time as we're transitioning into the next phase of the study.
I can speak to that one. So for questions about qualitative data and especially metadata related to that, we would recommend you check out the qualitative data repository and their linked resources. Even if you don't deposit your data or share your data through that repository, they do have some really helpful and well done guidance resources that you could look at. In addition, I might recommend the Data Curation Network's primer on qualitative data. We can get links for both of those resources for you and get those over to you. I don't know, Lizelle, you let me know if we're dropping stuff like that in the chat or not. But we can point you to those resources for qualitative data in particular.
Thank you, Sabrina. Anyone else? If not, I can move on to the next question. Question 2. I wonder if the workspace is open, available to anyone. I would like to incorporate it into our data management course for grad students. I believe this is for Brianna.
Yeah, thanks, Lizelle. The short answer is yes. Anyone can go to healdata.org, click on the Workspaces tab, and then there's a very short form to request that you can fill out to request access to a HEAL workspace. What happens when you fill out that form is our user services team will approve your access, and then you will immediately be able to use the HEAL workspaces. We provide free of charge to users that immediate access, and we provide enough funds such that you can complete like a small to moderate project on the platform. If you are interested in a longer term sort of project, or if you look at the specs of the workspace and say, you know what, I really would like to use the workspace, but I would need something to be different in there, please do email us at HEAL support. We'll drop the email in the chat here, but email us at healsupport@gen3.org. We would very much like to talk to you about that. And as far as incorporating this into a graduate class, yeah, we're definitely interested in supporting that kind of use case. So I can see the person who asked this, and I'll reach out to you directly about that. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. And I believe this one will be for you too, Brianna. Um, can they install the variable level metadata tool on Google Colab?
Yes, the HEAL variable level metadata tool is within the HEAL scientific development kit. So anywhere that you can pip install a Python library, you can install the HEAL variable level metadata tool. And instructions for doing that are in our documentation.
Awesome, thank you. Question 4. Oh, where did it go? How do you know which repository to report your study to?
I can answer that one as well. Sometimes you might be required to use a particular repository to share your data. So, for example, it is not uncommon if you receive a grant from the National Institute of Mental Health that they ask you to share your data through their data repository, the NDA. However, most people don't have a specified repository requirement, in which case you can select a repository from the list of HEAL compliant repositories through which to share your data. We will provide the link to that list of HEAL compliant repositories for you as well. And we'll also note that we stewards very often do consultation calls with HEAL funded researchers to talk through exactly what kinds of data your study generated, what the project needs are. And at the end of those consultations, we'll suggest 1 or 2 repository options that are appropriate for your study and data. So you're very welcome to schedule a consultation with us if you can't easily find a great fit option from the online list.
Thank you. Next question, is the variable level metadata tool on the HEAL platform only for tabular data?
The answer to that is yes. It is only for tabular data. It can work with CSV, TSV, and JSON files. As I showed in the demo, it can work with the CSV exports from REDCap, and there are ways to convert things like Stata files into a REDCap-like form that it can work with as well. It can work with data sets that are in CSV, TSV, or JSON format. But yes, it is intended only for tabular data.
I can actually add a twist to that. If you can put
Okay,
your
great.
data dictionary, if you can put your data dictionary, and even for non-tabular data sets, if you can put your data dictionary in, CSV file or JSON file, you'll be able to convert those to VLMD as well, and that can be useful too.
Thank you. Next question. What are the required fields in a data dictionary for tabular data? Or in other words, are there any requirements for the fields in a data dictionary?
Yes, I can take that, and actually I'll show my screen just momentarily. Okay, so this is the NIH HEAL GitHub organization, and I've navigated to the HEAL metadata schemas folder in here. So I will drop this in the chat if I can find it. There we go. I'm not seeing the option to send it to everyone, so if that only, oh, there it is. Perfect, okay. There we go. So what we have here is you can view the schemas themselves. The JSON schema is available here in this folder. I think what is helpful for most users are two other things, though. We have templates available in CSV and JSON format. So we can look at this really quickly. The two required fields are variable name and variable description. These are the two things without which, like if you don't have these, your file cannot be validated, cannot be converted to HEAL compliant variable level metadata. And the reason these are pretty minimal requirements, just two fields that are required. The reason for this is we recognize that where HEAL investigators are generating a wide array of data types, and just there will be cases where if we got too much more specific than that, the specifications of the schema just wouldn't apply to some data types or to some study types. So it is very flexible, and what you can do is download this template and just fill out the columns that are relevant to your data set. And if we navigate back here, the second piece that would be helpful is the examples folder. If you click into this, you can see examples of both valid and invalid HEAL variable level metadata. So we can look at just a kind of a minimal version, only a few columns are filled out. This is great. We can go back and have a few more of those columns filled out. This is also valid. And then if you want to view an example of what an invalid submission might look like, we'll just take a look at one of those. We see not every variable has a name, not everyone has a description, and you can take a look through this as well. So name and description are the two required fields, and these resources are available in the link that's in the chat.
Thanks, Brianna. The next question is regarding if anyone has a comment on using metadata standards available on fairsharing.org. Is anyone familiar with fairsharing.org? Sabrina?
Yes, I am familiar. Fairsharing.org is a great resource for those who don't who have not used that website before. Fairsharing.org is a catalog of different metadata standards and data standards that have been published by like communities of practice, sometimes professional research associations or other groups. There are a lot of filters you can use on fairsharing.org to kind of filter by, is this a standard that's currently being maintained, or is it an old one that they're not updating anymore? What types of data does this standard apply to? And many other filters like that. So it's a great place to look for a standard that would help you add some structure to data that you're generating, especially if you have not previously tried to format your data type into matching a particular kind of standard in preparation for sharing it to a wider community. So +1 for fairsharing.org. It's a really good resource.
Awesome. Thank you, Sabrina. This next question, maybe Brianna, can you provide an example of fields needed for a data dictionary for a common data element? I'm assuming for a HEAL CDE. I know you described the two required fields, but I guess can you make it relatable to CDEs?
Yes. So on the one hand, the answer would be the same. Like required fields to be compliant with the HEAL variable level metadata schema would be the name and the description. In the case of CDEs, many more of the column headers in the template will be applicable. And we would encourage everyone, no matter if it's a CDE or otherwise, to submit, to create and submit the most robust, to fill in as much information as you can. That being said, we do actually have a tool that is really helpful for submitting variable level metadata for CDEs. I think this is actually the subject of the next Fresh Fair webinar in August. So perhaps I'm happy to talk about that, but I'll post this to the stewards. Should we hold off until until that webinar? Or is this something we'd like to get into now?
We can hold off, but certainly we can share the resource that is already available in the follow-up email. But yes, next month's webinar will be about CDEs and tools regarding common data elements.
Yeah, I guess that uh, just if this person is interested in making progress on that now, what we will be demonstrating next month is a CDE pick list that you can fill out. Say, I've in my study have utilized CDEs A, B, C, D, E, and F. And when you submit those selections, it will automatically create the VLMD for you. So I will say that. So there's no need to manually generate VLMD for HEAL CDEs. And we'll get into it next month.
Awesome. Thank you. The next question is, can you post a link to the variable standards finder? Certainly, yes. They described we're in a pilot phase of the study now and in a good position to add variables when we move beyond the pilot to the full RCT. Sabrina is actually one of the, if not the one that created the tool. Do you want to add something about the variable standards finder that I might have missed on?
I'll just mention, since we were just talking about fairsharing.org, that the variable standards finder, you can think of sort of like a mini version of fairsharing.org that's been customized for the HEAL audience. But it essentially is also just a way to look up data standards that might apply based on the type of study you have and the types of data you're generating.
Perfect. Thank you. Next question, can variable level metadata evolve with newer variables, and could there be a potential problem with updating it? Can someone talk about any changes regarding variable level metadata and how to kind of keep track of any updates about that?
Yes, I can speak to this with respect to the platform. So we are asking HEAL investigators to go ahead and create their HEAL VLMD files to upload them to their study on the platform. And in the case where you have uploaded a file and then you say, oh, I made a typo, or I changed a variable name, or maybe you've made extensive changes to your data set, to your data dictionary, to your VLMD, since you gave it to us, that's not a problem at all. If you, on the platform, if you upload a file that has the same name as the one you previously uploaded, it will replace the old one and the new one will be associated with your study. So with your study on the platform, you can have multiple VLMD files if that's how you're sharing your data and that's how you want to share your variable level metadata. You can have a single file, that's okay. And in any case, anytime you upload something with the same name, it overwrites what was uploaded with the previous name. And I'll drop documentation for that, how to submit VLMD files and replace them if needed in the chat.
I'll also add to that the idea here is that if you have a variable in your data set, that variable should be documented in the data dictionary or codebook or VLMD file, and vice versa. If there's a variable in the data dictionary, codebook, or VLMD file, it should be in the data set that pairs with. So what often happens is we generate raw data, collect raw data in something like REDCap. But then maybe you derive new variables using that data. Maybe you score an instrument or you're creating some other kind of derived measure. And those sort of things, because they're done after data collection, would not appear in a REDCap data dictionary export. So you would want to be sure that whenever it comes time to submit the data dictionary and the VLMD that goes along with your data file, that it also includes any variables that you have derived after data collection.
Hina, did you want to add something?
No, I think this question was covered nicely, but so HEAL Stewards, if you're also submitting data dictionary to HEAL Stewards directly, then you can always let us know that this is an updated data dictionary, and we will take care of submitting the correct version to the HEAL data platform as well.
Awesome. All right, next question. They said we're funded through an R61, R33 mechanism where the R61 is a developmental / pilot phase, and the R33 will be a full-scale RCT with about 224 participants. Do we have to archive data from the pilot, which has 20 participants?
I'll answer this and then welcome any further comments from my colleagues. I think what the HEAL data ecosystem is encouraging is sharing data from all phases of the project. So yes, we would very much like it in the interest of fair data sharing if they were shared from the pilot as well. However, whether this is a requirement for your award, I think only your program officer or your your contract, the award notice that you were given should specify that.
Thanks, Brianna. Our next question, is there a difference between submitting our data dictionary to the platform team versus the stewards? And this is our last question.
Investigators can submit to the platform through using the instructions in the link that I dropped in the documentation. As we've also discussed, you can email your files to the HEAL data stewards. And in either case, your variable level metadata will be associated with your study on the platform. We have pipelines to get it to your study if you upload it directly to the platform versus with it, and also if you email it to the stewards. So if you're doing one of those things, that's what we want, and ultimately it all ends up in the same place.
Awesome, fantastic. And that wraps up our Q&A session. Thank you to those who submitted questions, and thank you to our panelists and presenters. And so I just wanted to take a quick moment to give some acknowledgements. In addition to our presenters and panelists, we would like to acknowledge the behind the scenes teams listed here who worked diligently to bring this webinar to production. Next slide. And thank you for attending. I really thanks to the audience for your participation today. In addition to a recording of this webinar, we will also email everyone who has registered a list of resources that we shared during the presentation. The slide deck will also be shared with the links that are embedded within the presentation slides, and a link to our Slack channel and Connect with Us form will be posted in the chat as well as in the follow-up email. We hope that you will reach out to the HEAL Stewards team and the HEAL platform for any questions or support as you embark on your FAIR journey to maximize the value of HEAL data. We look forward to seeing you at our next webinar on Thursday, August 21st at 1 p.m. Eastern for a focused webinar on common data elements. Thank you again and have a wonderful day, everyone.